Have you ever wanted to use a memory palace, or what some people call a mind palace, to memorize information, but you've been unsure exactly how that what you want to study and learn maps out onto what I recently heard called as a memory walk? And I like this idea of a memory walk. That's a very nice way of thinking about it, although, as you'll discover in this video, you don't necessarily have to walk anywhere in your mind, and you can actually reduce the cognitive overload that would require, so that it's much clearer how to map out onto a memory palace journey or memory walk exactly what it is that you need to remember. So that's coming up right after this. So the major point of confusion here is that not all information seems to map out nicely in a linear format along a journey. At least that's how it seems, until that you dive in and you think about dividing it. Here's the reality though. When we're studying information, we are always studying information linearly, if that can be pronounced that way, linearly. There is a timeline of study. So you begin with a piece of information, and then you proceed to the next, and then the next, and the next. So it is not only mappable onto a memory palace journey or a memory walk, but you must encounter it in a linear fashion. There's no getting around that. So you've already solved the issue of whether information can be mapped out on a memory palace journey or not by the very nature of how we encounter information, because that's exactly how that we get information into our long-term memory as well, is that we go back and encounter it in time. And there's a beginning instant that we encounter the information, and then there's an end instant that we encounter the information, and in between that there's a middle. So there's a narrative sensibility here, and there's a really great understanding that you can untap just by realizing the beginning and the middle and the end of things, because that's how memory works. Your memory has something called the primacy effect, it has something called the recency effect, and then there's something called serial positioning effect, and in all of that you have the governance of the forgetting curve. And if you can manipulate the primacy effect against the recency effect with the serial positioning effect working in your favor through time, which has a beginning and a middle and an end, well, lo and behold, you're going to be able to hack your memory. And you can do that by placing information that seems like it doesn't have any kind of linear foundation in a linear journey. And so that's really the answer, is having memory palaces, creating them. Happy to help you do that with the free course that I have. So if you don't have it, go to magneticmemorymethod.com/YT and we'll get you all gussied up, because that is a great way to learn how to use a memory palace and to create it right the first time, so that you can reduce cognitive overload and jump in to understanding this linear timeline and maximizing it, so you get the benefits of the primacy effect and the recency effect and the serial positioning effect, because that's what's going to make the difference. But what the real struggle here is, the real challenge is in just selecting the information that you need to memorize and understanding how that you perceive it in time, and then allowing yourself to re-perceive it in time in a way that's going to destroy the forgetting curve, because you're revisiting it with a systematic pattern. So really, most of the work, if you want to use the word work, I don't know why anybody would do anything that was work related when it came to learning. You should be so excited about it, so passionate about it, that it doesn't feel like work at all. And that's what memory palaces can do for you. That's what mnemonics can do for you. That's what memory techniques or memory tricks or whatever you want to call them, that's what it's all about, is it's removing the pain, removing the frustration, and making it fun, because you become a master of this linear timeline. You become the boss of how that you encounter the information and shape it into your long-term memory and hold and retain it for as long as you wish, for as long as you please, forever. It's really neat, but you've got to just stop thinking about information as being disconnected or somehow non-linear. It's always linear, because you always encounter it in time. It's just, how are you going to portion it out? What are you going to select from the information you need to study, and where are you going to encode it in your memory palace so that you are decoding it in a way that you've maximized the potential of, that you've absolutely done strategically. And it's beyond the the nature of any single video to do this, to explain this, which is why I've made a free video course that takes you through step by step, and I highly encourage you to get that. But at the end of the day, all of this comes down to not thinking that information is disconnected or not mappable onto a memory palace journey. Every piece of information is mappable onto a memory palace journey because every piece of information is encountered linearly. It has a beginning and a middle and an end, and so do memory palace journeys. The question comes down to is, how effectively have you created the memory palace? What strategy do you have for your memory palace? And what strategy do you have for actually using the memory palace to go through that information step by step in a very fast and easy and fun way, so that it just naturally virtually as if by osmosis or on autopilot gets into your long-term memory? Because that's the other thing that people don't understand, is that you don't use the memory palace with some kind of fantasy that it in itself is going to go into long-term memory. What you're doing is you're using the memory palace to break the forgetting curve, to just snap it in half and throw it away, because you have found a way of revisiting that information in time, maximizing the power of time, and maximizing the power of the recency effect and the primacy effect and this serial positioning effect, so that just in your mind, no apps, no note cards, none of that stuff, just in your mind, going through it and getting it into long-term memory. It's going to be a lot faster without all that other stuff, and it's going to be a lot more permanent. And then of course, if you use the big 5 of learning, which is reading, writing, speaking, listening, and then of course memory, because memory feeds all those others, and those others feed memory. Reading something feeds your memory. Writing about something feeds your memory. Listening to something feeds your memory. And talking about it feeds your memory. And then of course, you're using your memory feeds your memory. It's just a perfect circle. And when you get all those things working in your favor, and you have a strategic memory palace strategy for that, one that you might just call magnetic, well then everything is golden. So that's the answer to the question. Think about information in relation to time, and understand that no matter what that information is, no matter how much information there is, you are always encountering it in time. A memory palace journey is something that is conducted in time, and you don't have to see yourself walking through it. You can just go from station to station to station in your memory palace without having to do any kind of weird seeing yourself or anything like that. And I can tell you that the memory champions who break all the records and stuff like that, and even when I competed myself in cards, there is no time to see yourself walking along a journey. It's not really a memory walk. It's more like a memory magnetism experience where you're just zipping from station to station to station, because you've created the memory palace correctly, because you have this absolutely clear journey that is not a journey. It's just points in space, and you've just kind of tied magnetically into place this imagery that you create, and you work so much. That terrible word, work. You play so much with the information, magnetizing it, shaping it, encoding it is the scientific word. And memory experts will always agree that, or they should agree, it comes up again and again in the science, that the real benefit is in the encoding. The attention that you pay to encoding is where you get the benefit, right? But you need to know how to encode, and the cost of knowing how to encode is really just practice, and it's maximizing the value of all these different kinds of memory. And there are more kinds of memory that I'd love to talk to you about, because there's procedural memory, there's spatial memory, which is what the memory palace is all about, and it's so powerful. It is the most powerful thing of all. But then there's episodic memory. Episodic memory, it gets out of your mind stuff you already know. That's why we're always using Homer Simpson or whatever. If you're following my different challenges that I do and looking at my mnemonic examples, you'll see that I'm just tapping into popular culture. That's episodic memory. It's just that I'm using story material that's already there, and then I'm making new stories out of the stuff that I've already seen them do in stories. So it's just a double whammy. And then you have all kinds of other memory, and you're all placing it in position so you encounter it in time, and it doesn't matter how much information it is, it doesn't matter what the nature of the information is, it's all just information. So the biggest tip in the world is to stop thinking about this kind of information being different than that kind of information. Information at some level is just a substance in the world that has no hierarchy, no rank, nothing is harder than anything else. It's just a matter of what you're going to do to put it in a space in your mind, and what you're going to do to massage it a little with some imagery, rub it maybe like a balloon so it sticks in place like a magnet, and then what you're going to do to go back and decode that and play with your hair. And you know, hair can be useful. It's memorable if you have hair there. I use Shania Twain's hair a lot in my Chinese memory challenges because it's just such a great way of remembering sh sounds, right? Shania and Shanma. So it's Shania on a horse, and the hair of that donkey, or the horse on donkey. I don't know why donkey comes to mind. That's what you call the ugly sister effect in memory. The wrong word comes in place of the right one. It's just very, very simple, and it's maximizing all these different kinds of memory. But you want to get the recency effect in your favor, you want to get the primacy effect in your favor, and then of course the memory palace, if you're using it correctly for recall rehearsal, then you have spatial positioning effect just magically, wonderfully, amazingly, magnetically helping you recall information. But it really, really starts by reducing cognitive overload, by not seeing these memory walks. It's a great term, but I don't think it's realistic. That will cost too much time. It'll cost too much energy. You don't need it. You need to get a memory palace strategy that will enable you to just simply move from station to station, like stars in a constellation. It's really that simple if you just think of it that way, and move from star to star. You don't need to impose a spoon over the Big Dipper to understand instantly when you look up in the sky, the Big Dipper or Orion or whatever constellation that you look at and prefer. You don't impose anything onto that star system to recognize the constellation. You just simply see it for what it is, and you can move in your mind's eye from star to star. And that's what a memory palace is, and you don't need a memory walk. But in order to really get down to just identifying information and starting to encode it so you can decode it later, you need a strategy, you need a way of creating a memory palace system for yourself so that you can do this. And yes, the cost is a little bit of practice, but it's so much fun. And the ultimate tip is that a lot of people come to me at the last minute. I've got an exam tomorrow. And you know what? You can get a lot of help if you use these techniques right away. If you learn them and just make a memory palace and start to encode, you can amaze yourself by what you're going to do. But really, realistically, you want to dig your wells before you're thirsty. So go to magneticmemorymethod.com/YT right now and start this course right now, because you want to have these techniques under your belt, because a time is going to come when you're called upon to learn something really, really quickly, and the speed at which you can learn it is going to be directly related to your abilities with these memory techniques. And they're so exciting. It's such a fun way to learn. So let me teach you how to learn. Let me teach you a way of learning that is so amazing and so incredible and so much fun and so magnetic. Until we speak again, thank you for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I enjoyed making it for you, and keep yourself magnetic.